How you going, everyone? I'm smiling already. See, it's always awesome fun doing these. Um, so this is book club 2, second month, and so the book is uh, one of the translations of Rumi's love poems called the Love Poems of Rumi. I contacted the publisher to see if I could get permission to read the book because I think it's 32 poems, so I could easily read the whole book. And I took too long to actually do it. So if I'd had actually done this weeks ago, I would have had time and got permission. Sky's here, awesome. Good to see you here, Sky. So what I'm going to do actually is I don't know how many people have actually read the book, and Tony's here as well. Awesome. How you going, Tony? So the book's copyright, even though it's written, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I picked this one because it was $3 to buy on Google Books, and so it's Anyway, if I had contacted the publisher earlier, I might have got permission to read it, but I took too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out the title of each poem. So you can go, if you haven't joined the book club, you can just go on Google Books and pay $3 and buy this, because it's a pretty cool book for $3. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the title of each poem, and then I'm going to read it, but I'm not going to speak. I'm going to read it without speaking, and then I'm going to do a interpretation of the poem as each poem. So I think this is going to be fun. So it'll be strange because you'll see me here reading, and I'm reading from the phone because it's the right size for this book. So it's called Love Poems, the Love Poems of Rumi, and people have contested often that people class some of Rumi's poems as love poems when they're not. But I would actually argue that essentially they are. So in this book, you could argue that a portion of the poems aren't directly attributable to love itself, but you could also then argue that yes, they are in many ways. So I've got the book here loaded up. It's got some really nice pictures throughout the book. I can't show you the pictures because they're copyright, even though they should be in public domain because they're so old. Awesome. And so you might have, Tony, you might have a different version though. So this is the Philip Dunn translation, and there's Deepak Chopra did a translation. So there's many translations of his poems that are, and I don't know exactly how many copies of this different versions of this book there are. You might have the exact same one because it's published as a print version as well. So essentially these poems are 800, just over 800 years old, and it's a very interesting time in in history, when these poems were written worldwide, all the cultures of the world. So it's very interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out the title of the poem, and then I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to talk about it. So I'll do it as quick as possible, and it's going to be fun. This is interesting. It might not work, but I think it will work. So you have to sit here and actually watch me read silently in between each one. So the first poem is called "We Are All the Same." So we are all the same. I would interpret that it's a universal tale of life and like a yearning that everyone has, and you could class that as the love of life. It's like the character arc of a human. And it sort of connects everyone. Everyone experiences this as their life, you know. The second poem is called "The Fire of Love." So the second poem shares things with the first poem. We are all the same. So it's like the tale of life from birth to death, but um, it incorporates not only growth and plant materials, like Rumi often talks about the reeds, but it talks about life being connected through fire. And so when you trace religions back pre Christianity and pre Judaism, you have the ancient religions, which were the sacred fire, and they had centers in Europe, in the Middle East, in Samaria, and also in across the mountains in the region where Rumi came from. So this ancient religion was based on the sacred fire, and so it's harking back to that, even though Rumi was like a Sufist, so it was from a different time. It connects back to the ancient original religions, which were based on fire. And it has similar themes to the first one, where it's it connects the life force and fire being part of life, but also organic aspect to life being the thing that grows, you know. And then, you know, it sort of connects subjectivity and objectivity and ignorance within this greater wisdom. And it has a bit of humor in it too. So that's how it sort of connects these levels. Next poem's called The Thorn in the Heart. And this is, I like all the poems in this book. There's no poems I don't like, but this one is very much a love poem, and it's also has quite salacious elements to it. So it's a descriptive. It has eroticism essentially, but it really is as simple. It takes an inconvenience, so it mentions a thorn in the foot, which is something that's used as a metaphor, and parables are written about thorns, and but it's like, and then it connects it with love in the sense that, we all experience a thorn in the foot, and we also, but then he moves it on to a thorn in the heart, and then it's like, well, connecting the two, an inconvenient pain, and the thing about the thorn that you find in your foot is you know exactly where it is and you go to pull it out straight away, and then you look at a thorn in the heart is very difficult to find, and how do you remove it? So it's very simple. When I say simple, I don't mean something is bad or lower quality. Simplicity is often the highest form of things. So, but I really like that one, how it really sort of resolves the pain of love. The next one's called Love Makes the Bitter Sweet. So it's a short one, and it's I will go into the themes that he uses. So across all the poems, he uses the world around him, so the plants, the way of life, things of value. And before I started this stream, I said I need to get some water. Water is featured a lot in this book, but this is like the title "Love Makes Bittersweet." It's sort of like saying, it's like alchemy in a way, but it's showing how it takes something that is of one form, that could be seen as a lower form, and then moves it to a higher form or a better form. So yeah, and this is like a universal, very simple universal poem that connects diametrically opposed things, and it goes across all scales of society, and not just material things, social structures. So it creates comparisons between, um, and it also includes thought as well. So it's not just the physical things, whether physical manifestations of society or tangible objects that have value, but also social structures, and then includes thought and wisdom, you know. Um, and then brings it back around, which is, I think it's got a twist. It's got a great twist to it, because it shows because the poem's talking about diametrically opposed things, or things that are different. The twist at the end sort of brings it together. The next one's called Never Tell. I mean, this is a really interesting one. This is one that you could argue is not technically a love poem, but it really is, because it's more about the intricacies of people's stories, people's personal lives, and you know, it's very much like a proverb that is a very wise, educating proverb. So just by the title itself, it explains why being reserved is self-preservation. So you could argue that it's love, having love for yourself, or your own sovereignty, or your own being, by sticking to certain moral codes. The next one's called Grief. So this is a really interesting one. It's what it's like. It has the universal levels of the character arc, or the journey of the individual and their experience, and what they go through. So it talks about grief, and it also, so it has like the whole, because grief is often referred to as something that's lost, or it's life and death, and You know, again, it includes the elements. So it mentions the elements and life itself. And then it then resolves with re- referring it or reflecting within how something could be explained through empires or dynasties, or once civilization emerged to a point, then it became complex, and there were these sort of built-in aspects to society and the world. So it's a really interesting one. I mean, it's universal on many levels, but it's personal, and then it has the elemental aspect, and it also has the social aspect. The next one's called Solitude. I like, well, I like all the poems, but I like this one especially. Um, and you know, there's parallels, like when you think of solitude, um, how it, you know, it's like the hermit, and or the yogi that goes and sits in a cave. Um, and it connects it with the average person. So it's really, solitude is like the sigma, you know, it's like the lone wolf. It's talking about um, making sacrifice, or not necessarily sacrifice. It's like making a conscious decision to choose a particular path, and why, and what benefits there are, and it justifies it with the last two lines, how it reflects back to the average person that doesn't do this, you know, and it compares both as being creating self-imposed limits. Um, it's an interesting, very interesting one. The next one's called Giving Thanks. So like, Giving Thanks is a very beautiful, simple love poem to nature, in a sense, you know, and it uses the metaphor of the tree and the bough and the leaves, and or the earth, and how it interacts, and that it's a story of love, of life, and experience. It is another beautiful poem. But it's a nature orientated poem, so that it doesn't really have a connection to humans. It uses nature as a metaphor. Um, it uses the tree as and its story. So the next one's called The Game of Love. So the game of love is a very sort of metaphysical, deep spiritual tale, and it references two lovers and how they essentially play a game or do a dance, which is what then makes the universe, or it makes everything. And and then the act of this is a form of surrender, um, and it does remind me of like samadhi in its description as being a dance, or a combining of movement and a connection to the universe itself, the whole everything, existence. The next one's called The Garden of Love. So this is a very simple, short explanation of love and describing it through the metaphor of a garden, and shows how that different emotions like sorrow and joy are separate from love. Love is something that's higher, and it's love is persistent. It's always there. Um, so it's like a fertility um, representation of fertility that is love, and that though there are these lower emotions, which are the sadness and joy, love itself is something greater, and it's always there. Whereas um, sorrow and joy don't exist in a permanence. So it separates. It's basically saying love is the highest. Um, love is everything. Like it's anything less than love itself is any of the other emotions or feelings or states of being. The next one's called Sorrow, which is referenced in the previous poem. So it sort of goes into more detail, and it is talking about the aspect that, though it doesn't mention love itself, it's the opposite almost of love, or um, on the other side of it, something that comes after or before it. Um, and it it references death and rebirth, the tearing apart and the reforging of the new, um, and that it tries to justify surrender and expectation, or the journey of giving in, giving up, giving in. Um, but it has a renewal aspect to it, which is interesting. Um, so it's like again, it's a universal, very short universal poem that sort of talks about the soul, or the heart, um, and it gives space and time to question devotion. That's what I get from it. It's like there's a lot of pain and in the world, and often the act of um, going through the process of either life or um, devotion, it has to go through these processes of destruction and re, renewal or rebuilding, and it questions the pain in a way. So it, uh, I think of, it's a common theme in a lot of love songs that sort of question. The next one's called Creation. Creation is a very interesting one, and it's a universal, very universal, and it's sort of, it unites the world and what makes the world, and experience, and fate and destiny, and the intricacies and misfortunes of love itself, like lost love or unrequited love, and it's one of the poems that has a separate section, two separate sections, and then it goes from the natural, and then it goes from nature to the unrequited um, love that is lost or never fulfilled, and then brings it back again with connecting it to religion as creation, but also the sacredness of the feminine. The next one's called Open to Me. And this is a very beautiful, very short, like a haiku almost. And it's very beautiful. It it's like about a shared shared connection, a reciprocity of inspiration that by going through the process of as one opens up, it allows the other to not only see it but see itself become whole. So it's very powerful that it's such a short poem. It's only a few words. Next one's called This World. So this world is very much like what it says. It's like the saying that there's nothing new under the sun, and so you could directly relate this to modern day, as any of the poems really. You just they're all relatable, and it's sort of saying that everyone has a drive or a purpose or like not necessarily an obligation, but they have a instinct, and that in the world itself, it's not just this. There's a bigger picture, and so sometimes these poems bring in the themes of what are complex societies and empires, and so almost you could say it's talking about the rat race in modern society, and that it's also very open about the stark reality of the world, that um, you are essentially insignificant in relation to the power of these greater systems. and how the world works, essentially. So it's sort of like saying, be wary, be wise to the fact that um, you're not the only one, and it's not going to be easy. You're up against a lot, and everyone's on the same path that um, you if you don't, others will get in there before you. Sort of like fear of missing out, or the rat race, if you want to look at modern versions of this sort of concept. The next poem's called You. This is a really beautiful, simple poem, and it's almost like um, it connects. I think it was, who was it? Gurdjieff said, "Do not mistake the carriage for the cargo." G.I. Gurdjieff, who was also an esotericist that was a Sufist as well, um, and I think it's very similar to that. So it's like um, it's it's talking about um, the qualities, like not keep thinking of the right word, not sacrifice, but don't. Um, it sort of is that. It's like, would you um, give something up because of something that is negative? And it starts with talking about a blanket that's riddled with fleas. So would you burn the blanket? And then it goes on to um, comparing that same thing to human traits. So the faults, would you forsake someone for their faults? And then it's like, wouldn't it be better to connect and then become enlightened through your connection and what you can learn from others? It's a very simple way of saying, take burden, or something that's imperfect, and rather than to cast it off, or cast it, get rid of it, to actually embrace it and learn from it. So it's got a very important message, and it's only in 4 lines. It's very simple. And again, he often does these things where it starts in one realm and then switches to another realm, and then there is this connection between the things. So it starts off with a material object, which is the blanket, and then it goes to human behavioral traits, and then it goes to another higher level of that, as to recapitulate and then ascend. So rather than to cast off, then to learn from. It's very powerful. um, the next one's called Light Up the Fire. So again, this is going back to the fire as being a central aspect. So you could say the fire is life or love, or um, it was revered as the ancient religions, the sacred fire. Um, so it's called Light Up the Fire. Um, I mean, it's pretty funny. It's called Light Up the Fire, and if anyone knows the band The Doors, Come On Baby Light My Fire, you know, very much the same. But um, you know, you could almost argue that those two songs are connected. That this poem and that song are connected, and it's talking about um, the fire itself and the act of um, and that if fire is life, and that we have these higher levels of things, which is communication and experience, but underlying that is the life force itself. Um, and then it then brings it back to the fact that the the heart, life, and experience are all connected, and that it's a really interesting one because it's almost like a riddle, um, and it's basically saying simplify back to the core thing, which is the heart or the love or the fire. The next one's called Seduction. So it's another very short one, similar to like a haiku in its prose, and it's very experiential, um, very reminiscent of like the classic love scene, you know, of two lovers in a garden, or um, but it has an urgency to it. So and then so it's about passion in a way, and then and it's called seduction. So you know, it's like the act of um, but it's interesting how it uses the experience as something that's part of it. So the senses experiencing the rush of of the act, and it um, being present whilst also being in a hurry. So it's like almost like things get sped up, but they also get slowed down for a minute, and there's a another level of experience, which is part of that. So again, it is similar to motionless while or being having ecstatic while being motionless, or um, being motionless whilst being in a state of urgency, which is part of the seduction of the rush. The next one's called the search. So yeah, the search is, I guess, like the searching for love, and it really draws on the. It puts you in the perspective of um, the person who is on the journey of searching, and the things that you will encounter, and that there'll be constraints and restrictions, and that um, all those things don't really matter. Um, they do, because they allow you to get closer to your goal. So it's a very interesting one. But and then it sort of then brings it within a greater realm of empires and societies, and how, you know, you could be searching on a personal level, but um, the it's the same thing that um, the people in the highest points of positions of power are doing the same thing. They're on their own search. So it's interesting how it connects that. Next one's called the thief. And this is an interesting one, because it's like, again, it's another one that references water, and a water source, or a body of water. And it references the fact that the thing that you're wanting, which is the water or love, has is been stolen, and the thief is something it's been taken from you. So I'm not far towards the end, so it's only a few more minutes and we'll get to the end. But I do need to quickly check something, so I will be back in a minute. Yes, ironically, had to um, I drank too much water earlier, so I had to go to the toilet. So that one, it's it uses the fountain as um, a metaphor for experience or experience of love or intimacy, and then it uses it, the the realization that um, the fountain doesn't have any water. It's been stolen by a thief, so it's dry, it's empty. And so that's, I guess, a way to again talk about unrequited love or failed love. Um, the next one's called In Love with Love. Very enlightened. So um, the name says explains it. It's like in love with love, and so it's sort of talking about going about things the wrong way. Um, so um, love itself being this thing that can't be controlled, or it doesn't necessarily not necessarily can't be controlled. It has its own life force itself. So um, um, I guess often love is misinterpreted, and people essentially mistake love for the act of loving itself. So like you could look at it like limerence, or um, foolhardy. Um, it's like the love itself is this intangible object. So, and desire itself, like, so, in a sense, there's nothing wrong with desire itself. Um, it's Desire is very essential. If we didn't desire things, we wouldn't eat, we wouldn't procreate, we wouldn't grow food, we wouldn't build houses. Desire isn't something we should deny. Um, but I think what this is saying is being in love with love itself is an act of um, not necessarily It's not like it's saying it's being um, it's like saying you're missing the point. And so that's why I said foolhardy, like it's like the person who goes too far trying to express their desire or their love, they're going to fail, because it's this, not only is it delicate, it's uncontrollable and unknowable. So um, going too far with things will ultimately fail. The next one's called Love is the Treasure. So this is another one that uses um, metaphors of what exists within empires. So, love is the treasure. So when you think of treasure, you think of jewels and gold and, you know, um, palaces and things like that. Um, and it's saying that true love is not, it, it, though it is the treasure, don't treat it like something that is a treasure, if that makes sense. So be humble and um, appreciate, rather than be in awe of it. Appreciate being in its presence. And it it connects the highest and the lowest within society. So it references treasure and things that are kept, in a temple or a palace, and then connects like the sort of lowest form of within society, that being slaves, and that by being by treating it the wrong way, you're imprisoning or indenturing yourself to not be present. By being present in its presence, you can experience it. But if you treat it like it is a treasure, you then become slave to it. So it's a very interesting way to think about devotion becoming your shackles, if that makes sense. The next one's called Drink Up. Well, saying that, I'll have a sip. It says, drink up. Oh, that's the name of the title. I really like this. I mean, I like all of them, but I really like this one, and how it's basically saying, again, this references slaves, um, and being a slave, like it's basically saying enjoy life, and you have to, you know, it's basically saying if love is, you know, if to truly like, um, it's not like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like saying just do. It's saying if you don't, then you are become subject to um, time, a slave to time. So it's saying just rejoice and live, you know, love, you know, like those um, cliche, kitschy posters and things people stick in their houses. Live, love, laugh, live life, love, or whatever, you know. It's like saying it's like saying just do it, you know. Um, but it's using the metaphor of like sustenance and that, um, and water. Again, this goes back to water, and it reminds you that, you know, it's what gets you there is not just, it's like saying go forth and live and love, but you also have to do everything else. So rejoice in that, you know, your life is a journey, and so it, and it brings it back to water again, because it references how your abilities, what you can do, separate to the fact that you're living and loving, um, are all these things. So you have what you can produce, and your life character arc, your story, your journey, your quests, and then um, it brings the connection between water and drinking, and also that, you know, it's they don't, it's not, it's like saying your intentions don't, will only get you so far. What you can do will has to be part of it, you know what I mean? You can't just be um, you have to actually be something. So you have to have skill and something that you do, and that's part of your journey. And hopes and aspirations, or whatever, don't just exist because of, they exist, it's practicality. So it's saying that um, your dreams don't just come out of nowhere. um, they actually start beside a river, and your skills. So, this again draws a connection to sorry, my phone just rang. So this is a connection between your abilities and like it's saying, go for it, but you need sustenance, and that sustenance is like water. But then also that you can't just be hope and aspirations, like you've got to have substance as well, which is your handicrafts, what you can do. And then you also have your life, which is your journey and your quests. And then that it's whatever you dream of is not just this thing. It in reality, it starts beside a river, and then where he came from, where Rumi came from, and everywhere essentially is the same. Is that humans would establish their craft next to a river, a source of water. And so it's like practicality. So you don't. It's an interesting one. I think the message is basically saying, rejoice, have a go. Drink from the cup, because you need the love being the sustenance, and that there has to be this practical aspect. So you can't just be all dreams. You have to actually do something as well. So it's like a whole picture. When the lover comes, it's a short one, and it's very interesting. It's almost like it's similar to unrequited love, but it's almost like being blinded by the light, so not being able to see properly, or being confused. And that it's this thing that is ephemeral and intangible. So it's like this thing that when it's there, it arrives when you're not expecting it, or you're not able to appreciate it. And that it's such a powerful force that you have it. It makes you insignificant, and that you literally don't exist when it shows itself. Like, it's like the power of love itself is such a powerful thing that um, you're blinded by it, or you're not able to see it. And then when it really shows itself, it's so magnificent, you become insignificant. So it's a really interesting points of view on it. Next one's called Silence. So this is another one that uses water and the ocean and the river as metaphors. Um, and the ocean has often been a metaphor for the mind and or the heart. Um, and so you could say that, you know, it's comparing the difference between the ocean and the river, and that, you know, the rivers flow to the ocean. And it's about perspective. As um, if you focus on the wrong thing, you're going to miss. You're wasting your time by focusing on the wrong thing. So it's referencing the river as being thoughts, and we all know this old story of the heart and the mind, and listening to your heart, or your gut, or your heart, and then being in your head, and then making the wrong decisions or focusing on the wrong thing. So that's what I sort of take it as being. So that um, they're all connected. The river flows into the ocean, and it's all water, and it eventually makes its way to the ocean. So it's sort of like, you know, even though, and it's like it's saying that you're not. It's saying that you're not. The destination is the ocean, and you're not there yet. But if you focus on the river, then you're not focusing on where you're going to end up, because it's like saying the ocean is home, or the place of love. And it has it's about patience and perspective and focus of attention. So I see it as being like the being stuck in your head, or stuck in your, you know, the heart is the ocean, and even though the ocean is often metaphor for the mind, it's also the metaphor for the soul, or the heart, or the subconscious, or, you know, and it depends on what time in history you exist, what it represents. So this was 1200 AD. Um, you look at geographically, um, there were these big rivers that flowed out to the sea, and this was the center of the world for a long period of time as the empires moved around the world at different periods of time. So if you look at that period of history, there were flourishing empires all across the world, and empires were falling. And the next one's called The Beginning of Things. We're not far towards the end now. How do we know the beginning of time? Oh, I'm not allowed to read them. I almost started reading it. Copyright infringement. This one's called The Beginning of Things. I like this one. It's got a bit of sort of humor, and it's about, where is the beginning. It's another one of those ones you could argue is not necessarily a love poem. It's like a riddle of existence and time, and in a sense, it's basically talking about the unknown, what is beyond, not necessarily comprehension, but what is beyond knowable, what is beyond the knowable, and that this is something that we ponder. And it's essentially saying that don't get stuck in philosophical debates that you can't prove. And that's why I see the humor in it. It's basically saying you could waste all your life talking about existentialism or things that you can't necessarily, like philosophy, is often seen as, unless it is practical, it can be seen as a waste of time. Certain branches of philosophy can be seen as a waste of time because there's no point to it. All you're doing is going around in circles, sort of thing. So it's basically saying get to the point, and if you can't, don't waste your time. Don't waste my time. It's got a bit of humor to it. Next one's called Fire. So again, fire is going back to the theme of fire. This is very much along the lines of the previous one, the beginning of things, but instead of being about necessarily philosophy, it's more about religious debate and science or knowledge, episteme, and that trying to prove a point, I guess, and that things are pointless. again, this one that has a bit of humor in it because it's pointing the finger and mentions that itself as being part of it, which is quite interesting. And it has a lot of parallels. Again, this could be translated into modern day speech and have the same mean the same thing. Next one's called Magnificent Existence. It's a beautiful philosophical riddle, and it it has themes of creation and like it talks about higher power, but it also references um, the power within the individual. Um, and it uses nature as the metaphor. The next one's called I Am a Slave. So again, it's another interesting one that sort of draws parallels between the material world and the spiritual world, and that there's like an ignorance or a disconnect, but also at the same time there is a innate connection between the two. The next one's called I Have Vanished. This is a beautiful one, and it's definitely about love, and it's about lovers, and it sort of references the joining and how um, by the joining there is like a loss of identity, or like the death of the ego, or um, that through the act of devotion, surrender, there is a amnesia and a a loss of oneself, of one's own identity. Um, Sort of like, you know, through that surrender and through devotion and surrender, then you're giving up your identity. Um, like a confusion, and that's what the confusion is, I guess. When people fall in love, they forget who they are, you know, because they've joined, and then their own identity is not questioned, but it's not. Um, there is a confusion and an amnesia, or uh, you know, like they say, like people in love, it's like they're lovesick or drunk on love, sort of thing. You know, the law of love. It's a beautiful, very short, like a haiku again, and um, very straight to the point. Um, it is very much like love, devotion, and surrender, and it's a beautiful one. Um, Next one's called "Consider Your Life." It's an interesting one. It's again another one that you could argue is not directly a love poem, but it's more a love of the journey of life. Um, and it's about self reflection and uh, appreciate the journey, and reflect on it, and um, if you sort of in too much of a hurry, you're going to miss the show, you know. So take your time and appreciate not just the journey, but what you've achieved and experience itself. Next one's called Paradise, and it is essentially what it says. You know, it's picturing a paradise, a lush, um, place that is full of life, and it, it's picturing a perfect place. So it's like saying, you know, paradise is a place that exists, and it is represented in nature as something that is overflowing with um, abundance, and and that again, water is at the heart, and it's not just the and that it's a beautiful place. So it's paradise. So everything is beautiful. So it's a, I guess it's a representing what paradise would be. So I got to the end. I don't know how many people were here during the reading of it. People might have got sick of me. It would have been very strange, me just reading the title and then reading it and then talking about a poem. But because of copyright, I couldn't actually read the poems themselves. And I see we've got lots of people in the chat and people were responding. So Sky says, why are chickens so smart? Because books, books, books. Book, book, book. Books. That cracks me up. That's a good one. Tony says, hi, Luke. How you going, Tony? Tony says, hi, Sky. Sky says, hi, Tony. Tony says, by coincidence, I bought that book a few months ago as a gift. That's right. I read that one. So I wonder if it was the same version, because there's several versions. Noah's here. How you going, Noah? Noah says, hi, Luke. How you going, Noah? It's awesome to see you. Noah says, hi, Tony. Hi, Sky. Tony says, hi, Noah. Resonant Reflections. Noah says, with the waving hands. Resonant Reflections here says, hi, all. Awesome to see you here, Resonant. Noah says, hello, Resonant. Tony says, everyone's saying hello to each other. How awesome is this? I love it. Everyone's such a friendly bunch of lovely people. Tony says, hi, hi, Tony says, I wish I had time alone. Yeah, that's it. That's a quandary. Time is something that we don't get. But I guess some of those poems talk about time, the aspect of time, and Tony says, love is a game, always lose at it. I always lose at it. I'm sorry to hear that. I haven't had success myself much, so you're not alone there. Noah says, Tony, hope you find even just a little for yourself. Yeah, exactly. I hope you do, Tony. Tony says, I would settle for just peace, married to a narcissist for 25 years. Oh, ouch. That is painful. Noah says, Garden of Love sounds nice. Yeah, it does. That's a really nice poem. I really like that one. So out of those 32 poems, I liked all of them. Some of them I liked more than others. And you could argue, as people have said about these love poems of Rumi, that they're not all love, except they're labeled as love. But you could argue that love is the center of everything, so but that one especially was very salacious or seductive, suggestive. I probably could have read a few lines. Like my dad said, you can read 10% of each poem. So I could have read one or two lines, one line of each poem. And I think it's sort of it was a fun experiment to actually do this, to read and then explain the poem. So if you haven't bought it, it costs you $3 to buy this off Google Books. So you could buy the book. If you haven't done it for the book club, you could watch this video and read the poem while I'm reading it. Watch the video in replay, and then listen to me talk about it. And then you can, while I'm talking about it, you could be thinking about your interpretation. You could pause it and go, "No, Luke, you're wrong," which is good. Put in the comments, Actually, I thought this poem was about this, because it's all subjective. It's all interpretation. And again, these were written, in a language that has to be translated. That is, the words are themselves ambiguous, essentially. So different people have different translations because the same word means something different depending on what part of the world you lived in and what things you believed in. So that it's very interesting how that is an aspect to it all. Tony says, "Thank you, though, Noah." Yeah, we all do hope you get some luck with love. We all hope that for all of us. Healing comes through helping others. That's a beautiful comment, Tony. Noah's got the heart, the orange heart. MJG's here. How you going, MJG? Awesome to see you. MJG's got the green heart. Noah says, "Hi there, MJG." Sky says, "Hi, Noah and MJG." Noah says, "Hi, Sky." Everyone's still saying hello to each other. MJG saying, "Hi, Sky." Hi, Noah. Noah's got the heart. MJG says, "Hi, Luke," and everyone, of course. Tony says, "I'm going to try and catch up with the chat as quick as possible, and then we can chat about whatever. But we can keep talking about the poems." It really is, like, some of these poems are amazing, and I love how some, uses nature, and then it uses practical things, like the things that existed within that world, and that, that in that time there were these empires that had, quite advanced things, like, and where that part of the world was very advanced with mathematics and science, and it reflects in this poetry. Sky says, Tony says, "Hi, MJG." Sky says, "I hope everyone has a great day or night." Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I've had fun tonight, and I'm loving how the hearts are flying. They've been flying up into the sky all night, so I'm just going to smash the button a few times. Tony says, "Bye, Sky." So Sky leaving. Oh yeah, Sky's got to go. Sky's got the heart. Tony says, "Kundalini fire." Yeah, exactly. So it does. The fire was a metaphor in a few of the poems. So it did use fire and water as elements. I really liked that one that talked about the ocean as being where the heart is, and that you're not there yet. But if you focus on the river is the thought, and if you get stuck in the thought, and it's classic example of being stuck in in your mind, you know, and that the ocean is waiting for you eventually. So I really like that one. MJG says, "Bye, Sky." Tony says, "Time is a thief." Yes, that's a good one. And that's the one where it's like at the fountain where it's the water, the fountain's dry because all the water's been stolen. Noah says, "Luke Johnson, lol to you." Noah says, "You're doing great, lol. Be right back. I have to go too." Awesome. So I timed it perfectly. Tony says, "Bye, Noah. Hope Noah will be back. She'll be back." MJG says, "Bye, Noah." See, oh wait, see you guys in a bit. See you guys in a bit. I drink too much water. Yeah, see, that's it. Wasn't just me. Tony says, "Love is for the lucky ones." It is in a way. And I forget which one it is. I think that was one of the, looking at where we were then, this far down through the chat. I can guess. It was after the. I mean, these are great poems, and some of them have got pretty sort of witty humor that stand up today. Like again, like if you translated them into modern context, they would work. If you look at the culture wars that exist in the modern world, Tony says manifest it. Yeah, exactly. Noah says my heart tricks me. It hurts me more. I think. Yeah, me too. And again, I think that was the ocean, the focus on the ocean, because the river's the thought. You'll get lost in it. The ocean's what's waiting for you. Tony says it's sad. So many good souls can't find real love. It is. I even had the Beatles song halfway through when I was reading one of those poems. All the lonely people. I had that song playing in my head, which I think was probably when you wrote that message. It was that poem. Tony says, "I pray you find it." Noah says, "So sad. Such is life, I guess." Yeah. Noah's got the heart. Noah says, "Yes, I pray. I have no control of anything ever." I have that too. It's disconcerting or frustrating. Noah says, "Magnificent sounds good." Tony says, "Love, affection, and human touch." Yep. Noah says, "Yes, longing for love hurts the heart." Noah says, "Hurts so much." Tony says to Noah with the cuddles. Noah says, "Oh, Tony hugs." Yes, exactly. This is awesome. See how much love is in the chat tonight. There's so much love in the chat, and the hearts have been flying the whole night. I'm just adding a few, but the hearts have been flying all night. Noah says, "Yes, the journey to love is what's supposed to happen, and nothing more, maybe." Yeah, that's exactly it. That was there was a few poems that actually talked about that. If you miss out on actually living, if you got to understand the journey's part of it, and it's not only the journey, it's what you do. Love can't just be all there is. you know, and yeah. Tony says, I'm trapped with a narcissist who has never loved me, but I was always too nice and too kind. I'm really sorry to hear that. And often you get stuck in that situation, and it's difficult to leave. So yeah, I am sorry to hear that. Tony says there are some nice souls. You just need to find them. Exactly. Well, there's a lot of them here in the chat room tonight. We're all nice souls. Noah says, Tony, MSC stick out. You'll love for each other will make it okay. I don't know anything though, but good thing is we mature. We have more patience. Yeah, true. Noah says, book, book. I love Sky's joke at the beginning. That had me laughing, hey? Sky's got some pretty classic jokes. There was that one about crustaceans. I wrote it down in the book. If I go back, I'll find it. I'll have to keep reading the chat though. But yeah, no, it's a funny one, the crustaceans joke. I love this, like I can go back through this book and these are notes from a stream, so everything people say, So I'll draw the next book in a minute, now that we've gone through everything. So what I've done is I've added 2 books to the list. So we started with 10 books and we've gone through 2 books, and I had 2 books referred to me. One I had referred several times, which was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. So he was an Auschwitz survivor from the Holocaust, and he wrote this really powerful book about surviving. And it's actually only $4.50 or something on Google Books. It's quite affordable. And the other one was Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which actually has a similar narrative. So it's Jonathan Livingston Seagull is a classic, and it's about persevering and resilience through very difficult times. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 10 books still. We've gone back to 10. And I'll put it in the hat. And I'll shake it around for a bit, but I'll catch up with the chat, so I'm almost caught up. Tony says, I'm okay now. I've accepted it. I just long for when I can leave and be alone. That's a really difficult situation you're in. Tony says, I love reading esoteric works. That's me too. And the beauty about that too is like there's, a lot of them are free, on Internet Archive and I forget the name. There's this classic website that's just got all these ancient Gnostic texts and esoteric stuff, and I forget the name of it because it's been years since I've been there. But it's been around since the internet started. Some of these websites that have got, the classic ancient texts that are all copyright free because they're ancient, Noah says that's so good. Noah says, Luke, I will make room to be able to download and tell you the interpretation is wrong. Lol, just kidding. You got to, It's only like, it's a $3. It costs you $3. You got to buy it. Love Poems of Rumi. It's on Google Books. Philip Dunn translation. It's the cover looks like that. See the cover? $3. So if you purchase the book, you can watch this video and read the poem while I'm reading the poem, and then listen to my interpretation, and you can put in the comments. Because what I'm going to do in the description of the video, I'm going to put all the times I start the poem, so you can skip to each poem. So I'm going to put all 32 poems, and they'll be, if you click on in the description of the video, you'll be able to click a thing and it'll jump to that poem. So if you're reading the book and you take too long, then you can skip back, you can do it that way. So the thing about book club is, if you haven't actually read this one, go and buy it and watch this video at a later date, and you can actually still do this thing, because I went through every poem. So do it, Noah. You have to download it, and it's only $3. But the two that I added are Jonathan Livingston Seagull's like $5, I think, and $4 something for Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. So we'll pick the next one in a minute. I've just got to catch up with the chat. Tony says, most poetry has a deeper meaning. Absolutely. I studied Gnosis for 4 years, both in Adelaide and Burleigh Heads. Yeah, awesome. So there's a lot to learn there. And again, the Gnostic texts are many. And I started learning about the ancient religions. And again, it's amazing, and they're still around today, and they exist. Tony says, I find comfort in spiritual teachings. MJG says, listening together and sharing things respectfully, full time of love is also a form of love. That's beautiful. I love that. I love what you said, MJG. That is a form of love. So we're all sharing love right now. Tony says, has a wonderful old esoteric library. Awesome. That's really cool. I mean, I don't really have too many. That's awesome that you've got a collection. Tony says, so true, MJG. Tony says, you can offer love, comfort, and empathy to those in need. Intrinsic Truth is here. How you going, Intrinsic Truth? I'm going to watch later. Thanks. Awesome. So yeah, hopefully you saw the bit where I said buy the book, and then you can read the poems yourself when I'm reading the poems myself, and I couldn't read them out because of copyright. Because if I was smart, I would have actually contacted the publisher 3 weeks ago, and they probably would have given me permission, because this book's often sold for schools, to use as study. So I'm sure they would be open to people. And again, like, the copyright's funny because it's text from 1200 AD. So it's pretty old. It's just the fact that different people have translated it, um, just like the Tao Te Ching, and that's in here as well. So this could be. Oh, I haven't told you what the books are. I'll do that. I'll take all the things out of here before I pick it, and I'll still catch up with the chat. So MJG's got the heart. Tony says hi, Intrinsic. MJG says hello, Intrinsic. Are you sure is here? Because you're here at the beginning. Hi, everyone. So, because you were here at the beginning, are you sure? And then I hadn't seen you during the chat, so you obviously got here now. So you'll have to go back and watch the replay. Tony says hi. Are you says hi, Tony. Are you sure? How awesome is it you bought you've got a copy of Nonviolent Communication. We got to practice. We'll have to do video chat and practice some role plays of how to speak with empathy. I look forward to doing that as you read the book. So you slept in. Yeah, well, it's like you said, you're in Ontario, aren't you? And it's like by now it's like 5 a.m. or something. Tony says, I bought my daughter the leather-bound gilded edition of Rumi's poems. I have to borrow it from her. There you go. Awesome. So that's probably by a different author, So there's different people who've done translations. So, and this was just a selection of 32, so it's a smaller one. I'd say that the book that you bought your daughter there, Tony, is got many more poems than what's in this $3 version. So, but are you sure when I saw you bought Nonviolent Communication, we should do some role play, like video chat or audio chat, and it's fun. It's fun to practice how to speak with empathy, and learn to do it. Like I'm getting better at it, but that's what you got to do. You got to practice as you go through the book. You'll see that there are exercises, so you can get the exercise book as well, which is full of exercises. So I've got the exercise book, so you don't need it. I can take photos of the pages and send them to you as we go through the chapters. But we can be nonviolent communication study buddies and practice role playing, because it's really that's how you learn it. You practice it that way. It's amazing. And there's lots of videos on YouTube from Marshall as well. Definitely practice is needed. Awesome. Yeah, no, let's do it sometime. As you read it, maybe read through it. If you want to, maybe read through it first, and then we'll do the role plays, or we can do role plays as you read each chapter. I'm probably too busy to do that at the moment anyway. So I think you'll find you'll probably read the whole book, and then, because the thing about this book is once you've read it, you read it again, and then each time you read it, you pick up more stuff. The first time through is like getting the grasp of everything, and then after that, the next time you read the chapter, you're like, oh, now I get it. You know what I mean? So so I've caught up with the chat. So I'll read out we got 10 books. We got the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, and it's the I'll show you which version. If it might be hard to find, but there's one on Google Books that is where is it? This is the Tao Te Ching. I'll put the link to it. Wait, you can't see it, okay? But I'll put the link to it. And so there's many versions of the Tao Te Ching. So this has got 6 complete translations, and it doesn't have to be the same. Like, you could read a different version. This one has got 6 versions of. You get 6 copies of it, and they're done by all different people. So one's translated by Dwight Goddard and Henry Borrell. One's Alistair Crowley. One's Jay Ledge. One's by Lionel Giles. One's by Walter Gornold. And one's by Isabella Mears. So there's 6 versions of it. Again, it's the same thing as the Rumi poems. So it was written in an ancient text that is interpreted differently by different people. So the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu, Ian McEwan, Enduring Life, and this is a novel, a fiction novel. Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson, and I think this is like I think it's a novel as well, but it's got a lot of resilience and model how to live your life. Congo Journey by Redmond O'Hanlon, apparently really good. He's like a travel writer, or someone who traveled all over the world and wrote stories about different places. Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. So they're the 2 new ones. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesky. Walden by Henry David Thoreau. Let Me Tell You a Story by Dr. George Boucher. And Who Ordered This Truckload of Dung by Ajahn Brahm, who's like a Buddhist dude who's actually doing a retreat at the moment. You can watch his meditation videos on. I was watching his he was doing a meditation today. He's like an English guy who became a Buddhist monk like 30 years ago. Interesting fella. I like the way he talks. So I shouldn't be looking at this. I should just. I'll let it shuffle for a while. I'll close my eyes. I'll just shuffle them for long enough so that whichever one I pick is just, by now it's starting to get pretty random. I'm not looking, so I don't even know what ones I'm picking up. So pretty soon I'll be able to pick one. I'll make sure that there's none get stuck in the rim of the hat. Well, that almost could have made that one. Here we go. I've got one. Let Me Tell You a Story by Dr. George Boucher. Here we go. So that's this month's one. So I'll just quickly read about it. So let me tell you a story, Tales Along the Road to Happiness. So this is like a book that will be, everyone came up with ideas for these books because they had something to do with getting through difficult times, and they have something that you can learn from it. So I'll try and think Okay, so I'll go to the Wikipedia, and that'll give us an idea about what this book's about. So he was an Argentinian psychotherapist. So I think this book's one of those ones that's really good. Um, don't really have. It's obviously translated from Portuguese. I think that's what they speak in Argentina. I'm not sure. I could waste my time trying to find what this book's about. Yeah, new approach to healing. How good is that? Like, it's a book about healing. So yeah, a new approach to healing through the art of storytelling. So here's a very short thing. It says, um, Domain is a highly strung young man, curious about the world and himself, but finds it difficult to face some of the life's everyday problems, whether concerning work, his love life, relationships with friends and family. He is eager to know more about himself and learn how to confront life with gusto and serenity. Yeah. In short, he wants what all of us want: to be happy and fulfilled. Domain um, or Demian finds George, an unconventional psychoanalyst who approaches the young man's dilemma in an unconventional way. Every day, George tells Demian's story. So it sounds very interesting. I'm interested in this book now. Um, and I wonder how many pages it is. So it's $11 on Kindle. I'll look up how much it costs on Google Books. I thought it would tell me the number of pages, but it doesn't. Yeah. So there you go. We've got our one for next month. So I'll put that in the thing. I hope everyone's happy with that. It sounds like it's an interesting story. It's about someone trying to deal with their life, and sounds like it's a book that's written from the perspective of a psychologist that's working with this person. Um, I don't know how long the book is, but I think when we came up with the idea for this stuff, um, we said that the book should be no longer than 300 pages. So you can't buy this on Google Books. So it has to be bought through Kindle, which is unfortunate. Well, I don't have Kindle. I'll see if I can get it from the library. You know, if you can get it from the library, to get it. There's lots of other ones, but not by him. So rather than me wasting my time looking stuff up on the internet, maybe I should engage with the people here in the audience. And you're not in the audience, you're part of the chat. So that's rude of me to even say that. No results. So this one, it was, you know, the reason why it made the list was someone said it's a really good book. So that's why it made it there. So I'll find out where you can get it. It's definitely available on Kindle for $11, so it's not that expensive. Um, MJG says, "Hi, are you?" Tony Pearson says, "StreamYard, definitely practice is needed." Yeah, okay, we can use StreamYard. I've got Microsoft Teams and that as well. MJ, are you sure? Says, "Hi, MJG." Tony says, StreamYard gives you 20 hours per month free, allows 6 people to panel in live stream. Yeah, we should, eventually we'll do that, you know. We'll do that. And there's that other OBS software and stuff like that. But StreamYard can connect to sorry, I said I was going to stop searching. No, it's not available in the library system. So I think I'm stuck for ebooks, stuck for Kindle with that one. I'll do the research and I'll find out where it's available for the right price. So there we go. Pulled it out of the hat. I look like a hipster, don't I? No. All right. Hipsters get a bad rap. They like good things. They made hats like this back in fashion. Tony says, "Are you sure?" Drum roll. Yeah, that's right. That's when I was picking the one out. So I love, you know, performers that do hat juggling. They're pretty cool, and they roll the hat, spin it, and land it on their hat. And yeah, they're awesome, man. They're legends. Someone stopped the hearts because I started playing with the hat. Yeah, now there we go. Hearts are back. Thank you. The hearts have been going all night, and as soon as I started messing around with the hat, it stopped, and I was like, "What did I do?" Tony says, "Yeah, I used to teach meditation classes." Awesome. Yeah, Argentinians speak Spanish. Yeah, they do. So that's it. Not all of South America speaks Portuguese. A Shaw says, good motivation to get to the library. Exactly. It should hopefully find it in the library. I didn't do the search for the actual paper version in the library. So I'll do that. MJG's got to go, says, have to go. See you next time all. It was a pleasure. It was. Thank you for being here, MJG. Always love these chats. You know, you're a legend. And we really did have a nice evening, even though I wasn't able to read the poems. So if you buy that version of Rumi's Love Poems from Google Books for $3, you can replay this video and read it, and then read it as it goes through. Tony says, with the hand waving to MJG, see ya. Are you sure? Says, what's the title? I get some on Spotify Premium. It's called Let Me Tell You a Story. Let Me Tell You a Story by Dr. George Boucher. Let Me Tell You a Story by Dr. George Boucher. And I'll put it in the community thing as well. And I'll put links to where all the places you can buy it. But apparently this dude's got like written lots of ones. And it sounds an interesting sort of book. It's sort of about someone going to see a psychologist, which we've probably all done here. We can all relate. But the guy's on like a self-help journey. So that was really cool. Yeah, again, it's unfortunate I couldn't read the book because it was copyright, even though it was written so long ago. The translation is in copyright. So it made it interesting. So it put me on the spot. So I had to describe the poem I just read. It was fun to do. Tell you what, these love hearts have been flying all night. I'm just adding a few. It's awesome. It means people are having a good time. So yeah, I'm just trying to think, what else did I say in the description of the video tonight? Yeah, then we talk about how much writing has helped me in healing, building resilience, and self-care. Well, it has. So it really has helped me. Oh, how cool is this? You know how I said I tried to put my books on Google Books and they rejected me? It became the best thing. So today I was looking at you know, on your phone you have like a news thing, and it had an ad for this self-publishing thing. So it's like Google was pointing me to this thing. So there's this company that it's not letting me load it. Here we go. So I found this publishing company that has printing shop in Australia and in Europe and in America. And it's like you can publish your own stuff and no one will tell you no. And you get 100% of the royalties. And it's the cost per book is already set up. So they've got packages here, you know, different, doesn't say how many books, but I think, you know, basically there's all these different packages depending on what sort of book. So I'll be looking at black and white, and even a simple cover. So it's not even going to be complex. So I'm going to have illustrations maybe in it, but they'll be black and white illustrations. I'm not going to go for color. And then makes it much cheaper. It's all prints on the one machine, much cheaper. So this popped up as a thing today. So now I've got this whole, and I got an email from them, and they're like, "Oh, give us a call. We want to speak to you." Because I've got enough poems for like a 200-page book. Maybe it's not a good idea to make something that big. It might be cheaper to do something that's like 64 page. Well, there's a thing where if the books for this sort of service, it's probably better to have something that's like at least 100 pages, something substantial, because I've got 150 poems or something. So I could pick the best ones out of that, bring it down to maybe 100, and some of the poems are over 2 or 3 pages. So it'd still be with a few images, it'd still be 150 pages. So I could save up over the 6 months or a year, and I could self-publish. And they print on demand. That's the beauty of it. So if no one buys it, it doesn't cost me a lot of money. So this is like an awesome project. I could just go. A dear friend said to me, this could be like a stepping stone to something bigger. And I was like, oh, that's the best thing, hearing that. It's like take this rejection as something that could be really good for you. Something better could happen. And that's what happened today. Like in this thing, I saw an ad for this self-publishing thing, and I'm like, oh yeah. And they've got like, they're in Australia, they're all over the world. So gave me a lot of, it was awesome. I was just like, this is exactly what I wanted to hear right now. Paige is back. Yeah, Paige says, I'm excited. Will your poetry book have a theme or cover all topics? Well, I've got all these poems that I wrote. I've got a couple of books full of them that I wrote through really difficult times, and I've got all these poems that are about hope and getting through difficult situations. And I also have themes, like I do have like ones that are angry about like people that hurt me. So I could have a section for group, like I could break the book up into sections. So it's like or I could just not have any of the angry, bitter ones, and have it all just like uplifting or positive ones. But you know, some of the ones that are like not necessarily bitter, but like being upset about, I don't know. I think finding the balance. I think there is a place for having poetry that's like saying, you know, I've written poems where it's like, oh, you've hurt me real bad, but I forgive you, type thing. I'm moving on from it. And then I've written other poems that are like, I'm really broken and damaged, but I'm still going to keep surviving. I'll make it there. Um, so yeah, I could split it into different sections. Um, because I think people who've gone through trauma, the idea is I like it as any people who've experienced trauma would want to read it, that could be uplifted by it. Also, they would probably identify with the poems that are like saying, "You piece of crap, you did all this bad shit to me, but I'm better than that. I'm gonna make something of my life, or I forgive you." Um, and then there's ones that are holding on to hope, and also ones about being lost and like giving up, almost giving up on stuff, and then like having just enough energy to keep going, and then finally you build up pace. So I think there's a place for them. Even the one I wrote, recently. I don't know. I won't read it again because I've already read it on the thing. But yeah, I got about 150. And if I include that, like, yeah, I've got a lot. I mean, here's an example. I've already read this one on a live stream, but here's an example of a poem that's about getting through, and it's called Today. And it says, one thing today, just one, at least one poem to guide me through on to the next day, just as the previous guided me here, and the one before that. This one is neutral, not happy or sad, angry or bitter. It just is. More than that, it gives me purpose and strength. The one thing for day, the one thing for today, what I need. So that's a perfect example of like, self-referential, because it's talking about writing poetry itself, you know. Um, so again, here's another one: self-care. Self-care. It's called escape to a place alone. It takes as long as it takes, just enough to lessen, not enough to satisfy all. Something to do to pass the time, just something, anything to take me away. Today has been tough. Nothing is enough. A glimpse of rest from being stuffed. Something to do to something more. This is self-care and not a bore. So yeah, so I've got, I got enough, and this could take me 6 months to work through. So, um, and it'll get me back doing artwork as well, because I'll do some illustrations for it. Um, especially like, yeah, I got this series that is like, it was originally a trilogy, but now it's actually 4 poems about a bird and a tree. And I wrote one of them on a live stream, and I've read all of them except for the final one. I'll read the final one. I'll find it here. So I've already read the other ones. So this one is like the final in a. It's like after the trilogy. So this one's called Requiem, and it's about a tree, a twisted tree that lives in a dark forest that doesn't get much light, but its only friend is like a bird that comes and visits, and it visits once a year, sort of thing. So this one's called Requiem, and it says so it's like it's after the trilogy. The pain endured, time spent alone. The tree is trapped while the bird is free, lost to endlessly roam. Tears of sap will seldom flow. When they do, they are welcomed. The bird no longer visits, feeling constricted, prevented to grow. Finally, when the tree falls, the light creeps in, searching around, once in shadow, now naked and exposed. The light is warm, and the seedling breaks ground. So that's actually like the requiem. So the tree's died. So the tree's already. It's been the trilogy's all about the tree, but the end is the beginning. So when the tree falls, it actually brings light in, and a new tree come and grows out of the ground. So that I'll do a. I might read all 4 poems in a row sometime as a full story, because it's yeah. And I was even thinking that could actually, the bird and the tree could even be a book on its own. Could be like a children's book. But it's a little bit sad, but it's not that sad really. It's actually happy. It gets happier as it goes along. Um, but it is about a tree that's sad because it's trapped in this, like, stuck in a. It's forgotten about. It's like a tree that's forgotten about, and it's all twisted and doesn't get to see much light. So it sort of it doubts itself and stuff. But once a year, this bird comes and visits through the winter. So that's its like friend. So the 4 poems would probably make 8 pages of a book, maybe 10 pages. Yeah, Paige says hi, Tony. Paige says hi, Luke. How you going, Paige? Awesome to see you here. We're going to have a chat tomorrow. We'll chat tomorrow. Maybe the world is ready for angry poems. Absolutely. Paige says anger can be justified. Totally. I think it, done rightly. And it's even in. Are you sure? It's still here. It's in here. Chapter 11, I think. Expressing anger fully. Yeah, there we go. Chapter 10. So you can learn how to express anger and do it empathically. So I love this book. It's so awesome. I wish I could read bits out of it and not have copyright strikes. I did read some of it the other night, and I've got to be careful not to have ones, but such a good book. I want to just start reading bits out of it, but I can't. Paige says, oh no, Tony says, love and joy balances out bitterness and hurt. Both would be good. Awesome. Yeah. So like you can have both, maybe have part of it. So that could work. Tony says, example, when you're hurting, sad songs are helpful. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Sad songs when I'm hurting are just the best. You can really, especially if they're constructive, Um, Page says sounds like parts of grieving. Yeah, I've actually got a folder called grieving. I've got a folder. I'll just tell you how many poems I've got in that folder. It's called grief. I've got like 10, but I've probably got more than that if I include ones I haven't typed up yet. So I've got to type. I've still got to go through and type up a lot of ones that are just written down. So I've got months to do this, and I've got to save up to pay for the initial cost. Tony says true, Page. Tony says yes. I would identify. I'd identify many have CPTSD or narc survivors. Yeah. Well, I would. This is what I want to actually do with the poetry book. Is I want to actually donate half the profits to a trauma center that gives free stuff, like free counseling or something. And so if it was in Europe, it's like some European one. If it's in America, it's like some American one. If it's Australia, it's an Australian one. I don't know. That could be an idea. That could help. It is an idea I thought of, and because I'd seen that it's been done before here. I saw someone did a poetry book, and they donated. I don't know what the percentage was to charity, and like it made all this money for the charity because everyone appreciated the poems because the poems were associated with I forget what it was. It was to do with a cancer or a disease or something. but it all, I forget what it was for. But it just makes sense, like if it's, and then if it's, if the poems are seen as safe, like if they're seen as not detrimental for someone who's got complex trauma to read, it's not going to make them any more upset than they are. It might actually help them. Um, it could help. I'm just flicking through book here, trying to find another one. This one's like a grief one. Alone in this world, that's how we leave it. All of the thoughts, some of the feelings, to a realization, then in a moment it drifts away, fleeting, over and done, no more to be seen, from many to one, and then to none. So, I mean, that's pretty much talking about death right there. So, I've read this one, I think, in a stream before, but this is another one. It's all about hope. Just keep going when it seems there is no chance. Each step is pain until the clouds break. The birds are singing, and a breeze reminds me things got better just by a turn of the head. Just keep going. Sorry, I could just keep flicking through this book looking for poems to read. I realize I'm sitting here doing a live stream. So, yeah. Sorry, I could just keep flicking. Yeah, so this is awesome. Thanks for all the inspiration, and gives me, like, how cool is that happened? Like, I got rejected, and then I saw this article, or it was an ad for this company, and then I looked into it, and they're like this legitimate, awesome business that allow you to self-publish, and it's all because they print in all the different parts of the world. You don't have to pay the massive costs of shipping, so it ships from the country it's printed in. So how awesome is that? It's a really efficient way to do these things. But that's it, Tony. Yeah, it could particularly be for people with complex trauma, or narcissistic abuse survivors. To share pain in common is helpful. Tony also goes on with, I wrote a sad poem 30 years ago. I still remember it today. See, there you go. How powerful is that? Like, that means that, it, you, it's there. I'd like to hear it one day. maybe email it to me or something if you want to share it. I can even read it on a stream for you if you want. But if you just want to share it privately, you can email me if you want to. Because yeah, if you that means it's a powerful poem that means a lot to you. Tony continues, creativity is soothing balm for the soul. Paige says, I love that. Love to see a children's book. Yeah, well, that's it. Maybe I think The Bird and the Tree could be a children's book. And even the Requiem one that I just read, it's like sad because the tree falls and dies in the end. But when it dies, it makes light enter the forest and a new tree grows out of the ground. So it's actually not really that sad. So the end is the beginning in a way. Yeah, Tony says they would have so many life lessons in the tree poem. Awesome. This has given me confidence. Maybe I should make that separate and like fully illustrate it. Because I can totally picture in my mind this tree that's all twisted and gnarly. And it's like got rotting limbs, you know, that the bird comes and digs at it to get grubs and eats. So the tree is keeping the bird alive and they be, you know, I mean, I own the copyright. I wrote this, right? I can read all four of them right now if you want. So I've just got to make sure I know where they all are. If I can find them all. Can't find it. Oh yeah, no, here we go. Give me a moment. So I'll read it. I'll read them all. I own the copyright to this. I wrote this myself. So if it ever becomes a book, no one can claim it's in public domain because I'm actually right now doing a I'm doing a performance. This is what it's called. It's a performance. I'm doing a performance of a copyrighted work. So the first poem's called Me and My Friend. When all I have is imagined, haunted by cool waters, to the roots of a strangled tree, starved of light and air. The water once saw light and felt a breeze. A breeze is the air moving about, like what makes the trees on the mountain shake. Where I stand, I'm not much for this world. There is a tree that will visit. There is a bird that will visit. Shocking. It survived starving through a bitter winter, digging grubs from my rotting limb. I don't know how it sees me. I consider it a friend. The next one's called The Bird and the Tree. The bird sings to the tree a song of mourning. The tree thinks the bird is sad, but the bird's song is about the tree being stranded, twisted, and alone. It is not alone. The bird is here. And the song, as it is sad, has beauty. The bird sings the second verse, and the tree still can't see its meaning, that it's infested, rotting, insignificant, and forgotten. But the bird honors this in song. The chorus is bold and admiring. The song paints a picture, so the tree pictures itself. Now the third verse will be ever clearer. It's all about the bird and the tree, how they became friends in the winter. But the tree is alone most of the year, and the bird is just as lonely as the tree. So the tree is right that the bird is sad, but only as sad as the tree. So this is the third one, called With a Song of Thanks. The first leaf fell, so the tree knew what it meant, that the season is changing. Soon its friend will sing its call. There has not been much rain, though enough to grow a full amount of leaves. And now the season is spent. The lonely tree can join the forest and shed last year's growth for trees. For it's not just the bark or the roots growing, it's the leaves and the fungus and branches. Sometime soon there'll be a travelling chirping and the sweet sorrowful song of the bird. Each year it returns to its friend, the tree that is forgotten and seldom heard. For its sway is so constricted it doesn't get chances to clamp against another tree, so its sounds can be. They come from the bird who comes in the winter to shelter in the hollow of the lonely battered tree. This year is different. There is two songs singing. So the tree thinks it's not its friend, the bird. Instead, it's a pair of three. The bird has a partner and a fledgling fluttering. So the tree cries tears of its last leaves cast free. They roost in its hollow and dig grubs from down below, with a whole new song for the tree to follow. The story of the bird and its new family of three. They weather the winter in joyful slumber, with a song of thanks in the spring when they flee. And then the third one, which is what I read before, Requiem. The pain endured, time spent alone. The tree is trapped while the bird is free, lost to endlessly roam. Tears of sap will seldom flow. When they do, they are welcomed. The bird no longer visits. Feelings constricted, prevented to grow. Finally, when the tree falls, the light creeps in, searching around, once in shadow, now naked and exposed. The light is warm, and the seedling breaks ground. So yeah, you can imagine like full storybook with like pictures and stuff. Yeah, it's very lonely. It's like a very lonely, sad tree that's all twisted and forgotten about. And it's got rotting limbs. But even though, like, the rotting limbs are actually food for the bird because there's grubs. And like in the first one, it's like the trees where it is, it can see all these trees that are living on the mountain. And that's how it even knows what wind is, because it sees the trees moving, going like this. So where the tree is, it's so stuck, it doesn't even get to feel a breeze of air and wind, and then so the only way it can actually experience it's sort of vicariously experiencing stuff because it can see other trees that are having a good time, but it's stuck in this spot where it's all twisted. And but it has a friend, the bird, and in the second one, the tree, you realize that the bird's just as lonely as the tree, and the bird itself is like written a song about the tree, so the tree's not alone, and it's like the bird loves the tree. It's where it goes to feel safe through the winter. So not all is lost. This poor tree that's all twisted and gnarly and forgotten about isn't really forgotten about because it's got a friend, the bird. And then in the third one, the bird brings a family, and so it's like happy, everything's happy. And then in the fourth one, the tree dies, but when the tree dies, a new tree grows. So it does have a full. That's awesome. Tony says, yeah, that would have so many life lessons in the tree poem. People just want to be understood. Tony says, I'd be happy to donate to printing costs. How awesome is that? Well, even just pre-order, like, or something. I don't know. It's going to, like, maybe I should do the bird in the tree first. That could be something. I don't know. That's going to get me back doing artwork again, illustrating, like, because I can picture this tree, and I can picture the bird fluttering about, and it's like in this really dark part of the forest near a stream, a pool of water, but it's like a pool of water that doesn't flow, so it's stagnant and not much light gets to it, just enough for it to live, just enough. Lashness here, man, awesome. It says it's nice listening to you, thanks. So you would have been listening to the couple of those poems and stuff, plus the bird poems. So Tony says, death is a friend that has walked beside you all your life. That's beautiful. It really is. We shouldn't be afraid of death. We should embrace it and understand its life, Tony says, hi, Lashna. Lashna says, hey, what up, Tony? What's up, Tony? Hello, Tony. Tony's got the smiley face, says to Lash. Tony says, what's your email? It's on my YouTube page, on my profile. I've got a link there. So what is a falling leaf at gmail.com. So you can email me there. Just look on my profile page. Lashna says, illustration you're describing it so well. Yeah, exactly. Totally like a twisted, and I think it would work just being black and white. You know, it doesn't have to be color book, and that would make it even cheaper. But it could be, you could do like black and white with like one extra tone or something, you know. So with printing, you know, instead of doing like CMYK, you could do black and white with one extra color, and or one or two extra colors, and it would look nice. And then you could have a style about it. So it's like grays, a gray and a white, an off white, and then you use the white and the black, and it all balances. Tony says, yeah, the old tree with rotting limbs equates to the human in old age. Exactly. That's perfect, hey? It does, yeah. The bird does have a breeding mate. No, well, that's the thing. In the second one, like in the first one, you just get to know that the bird comes and visits. It visits every so often, and then in the second one, the bird is a bit older, and it's like returned a few times now, and it's written a song. It's written its own song to say thanks to the tree, and then in the third one, that's when the bird arrives with a family. So it has a family in the end, and then in the fourth one, the bird no longer returns. So the bird's died as well, but you know it's living on through its siblings that, or the family doesn't return anymore. There's now, things have changed in the forest. They go to a different place to roost, sort of thing. Tony says lonely, yeah. The bird loves the tree. Yeah, the bird loves it. It saved it. It saved it in the first one. It's, you know, it's survived starving through a bit of winter, digging grubs from its rotting limb. Lashna says, yeah, the breeze. That's it. The breeze is what makes the trees on the mountain shake. So that the tree does, like, that's the only way the tree even knows what a breeze is, because it sees the trees shaking. And it doesn't even know. It says, you know, it's the air moving about. So it doesn't even know. It doesn't even get to experience wind. It's like in a really dark sort of spot that's so like overgrown and gnarly and yeah, that's exactly it. The poor tree longs for what other trees experience. Exactly. Lashna says, yeah, I can see the other trees having a good time. Totally. They're in the sunshine, and they're getting to feel the breeze, and you know, they're growing all lusciously, and, or not lusciously, voraciously, or whatever. What's the word? Whereas this one's all twisted and barely gets enough leaves to. It barely gets enough light to live. You know. Aishaw says maybe his freedom is in the roots below. Exactly. That's a beautiful way to look at it, because um, in the first one it says, when all I have is imagine, haunted by cool waters to the roots of a strangled tree, starved of light and air. So it's like there is cool waters that the roots get to. One positive thing that the tree has is a constant supply of water. It doesn't starve. It might be starving of light and air, but it's getting water. So that's probably the thing that kept it going. So I like that. Maybe I could draw the roots of the tree being like the most amazing part of the tree that stretch right out into the creek or into the pool of water. Yeah, Tony says connection via the roots. Tony says, I've often pondered how much trees have seen over the hundreds of years they've stood in silence. Exactly. They have memory and a consciousness, trees. They store that memory, in their DNA as well. And they pass it on, so they experience sort of like even how we store memories. Like we store memories in a way. We have different types of memories, and they're stored in different ways. And that's why with trauma, you can have the trauma stored there, and so you can process it and remove it by dealing with it. You have to actually bring it up and then tell your reprocess it so that it's no longer a danger. But yeah. But there was this awesome thing I found out like the other day. I forget the name of it. I should have written it down. It's like underneath the bark of trees. It's like they're these nodes. I forget the name of it, but it's basically they're all over trees. And certain trees, when you cut them, the new branches spring out. So they've got these buds that are sitting there dormant underneath the bark. And as soon as the tree goes through trauma, and this is why it's great because it relates to trauma, the tree shoots out new branches. And so that's why in Australia we have eucalypt trees, and they respond to this really well. So when half the tree gets knocked out by a storm or a fire, new branches grow. Forget the name of it. I should have written it down. I could look it up. I'll look it up. Yeah, Tony says, I believe trees are sentient, not like humans, but in their own way. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's it. And trees and mushrooms, says Lashna. Totally. Like the mycelium network is like the internet. And it spreads across the whole earth. It's amazing. The fungal network spreads across the whole earth, and they communicate. Trees communicate down through the fungal network, and the fungal network sends information just like the internet, and it's fast too. Like it spreads. It's amazing. Scientists have found that it's a real thing, and it's responding to stimuli that comes in and affects the tree, and then it gets sent out as information. So that it's amazing through the fungal network. Lashna says trees and mushrooms, Tony. Yeah, that's it. Tony says, yeah, black, white, and red. Maybe that could be the colors I use for the book. Tony says your mushrooms are definitely sent me in. Lashna says the watches, Marmay Oaks, and the Cedars of Lebanon. Exactly. You see, they are like sentient when you think of it like that. Like the oak tree and the Cedars of Lebanon, they're like the same thing. They're like the sacred tree of the different places, the Mediterranean and Europe. Yeah, Tony says, well said, Lashna. Tony says, if an animal is eating tree branches, it will send a warning to other trees. Exactly, to increase the bitterness, the toxins in the leaves, and it'll do that. It'll do that through its root system. It's amazing, isn't it? Look, I've had an awesome time tonight, and it was great to read that the bird and the tree poem. So, that would make a great children's book, wouldn't it? Illustrated, and you know, it's not too heavy. It's like it's life and death, but there's a happy aspect to the story because the bird brings a family, and in the end, the tree gets so old that it dies, and the bird doesn't come back because it dies too and it's moved on. But when the tree dies, a fresh one grows up from the light. I'm gonna have to end the stream, but it's been awesome. So yeah, thanks everyone. Like, we had a really great night tonight. I really appreciate everyone. So it might not be till next Sunday I do the next stream. I don't know how I'm going to be streaming at the moment. Things are changing, but maybe I'll get one or two in this week. But if not, definitely next Sunday. But yeah, maybe sometime during the week. But thanks everyone. I've just had an awesome night tonight, and I look forward to catching up with you all again soon. And we'll keep checking out my community page. Thank you for being here, Tony. Thank you. So awesome. I appreciate it. And keep checking the community page. Thanks, Lashna. Awesome to see you here, brother. I'll keep putting updates on the community page, and just keep checking that out. If I'm not putting videos up, I'll be putting posts up. So awesome. So Tony says, bye, Lashna. Everyone have an awesome night and have an awesome week. Are Shores says, be well, everyone, and have a wonderful week. Yeah, we will. Thank you. Are you sure? I look forward to practicing NVC with you in the coming months and stuff. It's going to be really fun to have a study buddy, and we get to practice, do role plays and stuff. Lashna says, bye, Tony. Bye to you too, are you? And there's also people in the stream that aren't chatting. This is the thing, not everyone chats in the stream. A lot of people like to sit and just listen. So good night to all those people as well. The beauty of these streams is not everyone wants to join in the chat. So we appreciate them being here just as much as the people who are chatting. So thanks for being here. Are you sure says, thank you, Lashna. So I've had really great confidence tonight talking about these publishing thing at the end, and that everyone's really got interest in my idea to make a book about trauma poetry, and that idea about making the bird and the tree poems as like a book, separate book. So that's really something to think about. And it's exciting for me because it's going to get me back drawing again. I haven't done art. I used to, when I talk about like a strangled tree starved of light now. I'll show you some of my art. This is the perfect example. Doesn't that look like the tree in the thicket or the woods? Sort of like looking through the thick forest. So yeah, that's some stencil work I did years ago. So yeah, the black and white ones, it is intense. It's like the idea when I did it was like it was looking through a thicket of vines or vascular system, like veins and nerves and things. So yeah, Tony says illustrations by the writer would be fantastic. That's awesome. So I have to be the illustrator as well. See, it'll get me back making art again. This is awesome. It's so inspiring. I appreciate everyone for like all of this stuff. And the beauty about these chats is like we are a friendly. This is like a social support network, and it's a friendship network as well, and it's people. Everyone will get to know each other over time, and this book club stuff's great. So we've got a month to read this book. Tell me a story. Let me tell you a story. I'm interested about the book. It sounds interesting, and it was referred, like all the books that were referred when we came up with the idea of the book club, were special to someone. So there's something about this book that's worth reading. So got a month to read it, and then next time we do book club in a month's time, we'll talk about the book and check the community page. I'll put up where it's available to buy, and I think you can get it on Kindle for $12 or $11 something Australian. So if you're in America, that'll be like $5 because it's like $2 for every dollar almost conversion rate. So it'll be much, when I say it costs $11, it probably costs $6 American. Again, I've had a great time tonight, and you guys have all inspired me and made me feel like I'm on the right path. After that rejection, a dear friend said to me, she said, this could be a stepping stone for something much bigger, and better. So, don't get upset about this rejection, like she's like, everyone gets rejected when they try and put books out. So, and then I've got people in the chat like Tony saying, oh, I'll donate to help get the book published. So like even just pre-orders, even if you pre-order it, that'd help make it, this is awesome. I've got a purpose to really work on all this stuff now. And I look forward to the next chat. There will be maybe if I don't do a stream during the week, it'll definitely be next Saturday and next Sunday. So Saturday morning, which will be Friday afternoon, and Sunday night here, which will be Saturday late night, Sunday morning, America. So anyway, I know I said I was going to end the stream, and that was like 10 minutes ago, and we've all been saying goodnight. Yeah, Tony says, let me know the printing run costs when you can, Luke. Yeah, I will. I'll let you know all about it. Like, and the company and all that. It's called Tellwell Self-Publishing, and they're international business that are in a couple of countries. So do it yourself versus self-assisted publishing. And so I don't know exactly what Tellwell is. Maybe it's both. But I'm going to email them and speak to one of the people on the phone. They said, give us a call. We want to talk to you. So I'm like, yeah, I like speaking to people. And this is exciting. And yeah, if you haven't seen it too, check the community page, because I'm giving away on the, I think it's the last post I did, the most recent post is, there's Google Drive links to 2 poetry books and 2 short stories I've written. The ones that I got rejected, so I decided to give them away for free. So check the community page on my YouTube, and there's Google Drive links to 2 short stories and 2 poetry books, a haiku book and a short poetry book. And they're free. They're for you as a gift. And enjoy reading them. Yeah, check. Awesome, Tony. Enjoy it. So the 2 short stories are both like 7-page stories, and each page is like an episode. So one's called The Mime, and it's about a mime, and each page is like an episode. And the other story is called The Hiker, and each page is like a journal entry that the hiker writes down every time he stops at the end of the day, or like whatever, he writes a bit more of the journal. And so they're 7 pages. And there's a haiku poetry book and a other regular poetry book. So they're yours. Download them. They're PDFs. They're already scanned for viruses through Google. So they just download them to your phone or your computer and read them. Print them out if you want. Print them out on a printer and read them. See, these are printouts of them. So I've got them printed out. So, but I've got them, in the digital format as well. Anyway, it's been awesome tonight. Thank you, everyone. Again, much love to everyone. This has been really awesome.